So I hope that you've seen part one of this How to Become a Productivity Ninja series. If you have, great. If not, I'll link it below. In this video, we're going to continue the conversation and Eric's going to actually show you the practical things you can start doing today. We are going to look at how he manages his time, how he organizes his to-do list, how he cuts out distractions and reduces cognitive load. This is a mini masterclass basically on how to become more productive. And of course, Eric is an entrepreneur. He works from a laptop, but this system that he's teaching you will work whatever you do. You could work a 9 to 5. This fits into a 9 to 5 system, or you could use his productivity system to get a side project going after work. Whatever the case may be, I think this is indispensable knowledge if you want to become more productive. I hope you enjoyed the first video. Check out the second video. This is the system to become a productivity ninja. In the last video, we looked at some of the mindsets and like sort of common questions that people might ask about productivity. And as I've already said, I see you as one of the most organized, productive human beings that I've ever had the pleasure of meeting. And I get to work with you for a couple of years close up and see you in action. You're not just some mythological creature that I've read about in some book. I actually see you in action daily. And I get to actually put you to the test, and you always come through and never cease to make me think, how does this person do these feats of productivity? And I would say like a natural artist. I'm more like a creator. And historically, I haven't been the most organized. So one of the reasons I'm doing these videos is for myself. Mm-hmm. And hopefully that the viewers listening to this can get some benefit too. So I want to now cut straight to the chase and get into the actual system and the various methodologies you use to get work done without killing yourself and being like overly stressed.
Awesome. Yeah, so I want to give a few points before we dig into this. The first being, my life is a little unorthodox. It's not exactly the kind of classic 9 to 5 structure. With that said, this whole thing is really flexible. It's actually designed to be kind of modular. You can bucket things around, so you don't have to take this as scripture, right? You can move it around and tweak it to actually make it your own and make it fit with you. I've been running, this has actually been an aim I've been trying to hit for some time, basically since I started working with HighExistence. It's really been coming together the last month, but I'm actually trying to make every day the same. I don't actually have weekends anymore. I don't know if this will stay forever, but right now it is. And so my kind of daily template reflects the fact that it's meant to continue every single day. Everything in here is free, so there's no paywall excuses. Background stuff. So we spoke basically all about this system in our hard work podcast, and we can link that. Another one that might be helpful is an article I wrote called Intentional Technology, kind of having a better relationship with your digital world, and we can link to that too. Yeah, that's really it. The kind of, again, we talked about in the first video, these foundations, these starting points. There are two that come up here that are super important. The first being, get rid of almost everything. Like, notifications are the biggest one. Like, the only time, and again, these are all just my opinions, the only time your phone should make noise or vibrate is your alarm clock. Nothing else should make your phone chirp at you, or your computer, because there's notifications on your computer now too. Get rid of badges, banners, like, I don't care. Just turn it all off. Big one. File inbox bankruptcy. Inbox bankruptcy is for those people who have hundreds, if not thousands, if not tens of thousands of emails in their inbox. Honestly, if you have a ridiculous amount, I'd go to like 1 month ago and delete everything beyond that, because bro, it's been sitting there for a month. Like, you're not doing anything with it. Get rid of it. It's easy to think like, yeah, but there's so much important stuff here. Like, if it was important, you would have dealt with it. Nothing's burned down yet, so get rid of it. Honestly, I'd just go straight in your inbox and just delete everything. Same thing with files and stuff on your computer. Like, all those random apps and documents and PDFs, like, get rid of them. Because a big part of this whole system is reducing cognitive load. Like, you shouldn't have to think about any of this. And all of that stuff takes up like minor space. But when you have millions and billions of this stuff, it creates this huge tornado.
Mm-hmm.
Once you've done that, the second big foundation is get everything in place. Like, there were moments, weeks and months and years ago, where I would just like put on like a 3-hour podcast and I would just organize my Google Drive. Like, how nasty does your Google Drive look? Like, how nasty does the documents folder on your computer look? Like, that's not helpful. It's not helpful. It's actually helpful to have the structure in your digital world too. So that's super helpful.
Can I ask, so like this is super, I'm already feeling more productive just from the weight lifted off me, like it's going to feel so good to delete all those emails.
Mm-hmm.
Like, just that thought is like very liberating. If you're not going to go into it, I don't know if you will or not, but how do you factor in like these cleanup things, like, so my Google Drive needs a cleanup. Do you do like one big cleanup, dedicate the day to it, or like little project? Like, how do you approach that?
Yeah, so built into this is a kind of daily review sort out session. And
Mm-hmm.
because I'm already coming from having done that, it doesn't really need to be actively maintained. Like, now if I'm putting together a podcast and I got a bunch of files on my desktop, like, they find their way into a folder by the end of the day. So it maintains itself once it's set up. And that's why a foundational thing that you can't really see here is like, get that shit taken care of. And again, it looks like a huge overwhelming project, but like, 3 hours where all you're doing is sitting there deleting and organizing stuff, like, you'll get it done.
Yeah. Okay.
So yeah, get rid of almost everything, right? As much of a blank slate as you can. This includes like commitments on your calendar. Like, most of your meetings are garbage and could be emails. Let's be honest with that right now. Like, most meetings are trash, right? So like, literally, how much of a blank slate can you make your calendar as well? And, part of this is like, we have a very flexible setup. We're remote. We have no real commitments. So part of my stuff, that's why I said this is modular. Like, this will still work if you have like a 9 to 5. It can fit into the 9 to 5. It can fit into the hours after. So don't, just because my circumstance might be a little different on the surface, again, like we said on the last video, the core principles still stand. Yeah, so that is really the starting point. All right, so I will share my screen here. Can you see that?
Yeah, I can see that.
So again, this is an example. This is my desktop. There's the menu bar is hidden, right? The dock is hidden. All of my apps, once they're actually quit, go away. And this is why I mentioned the intentional technology thing, right? Having an intention, particularly in the vast digital universe, is super helpful. So basically, all of my stuff starts with search like this. Like, all right, what do I need to do? Well, I need to look at my to-do list, right? I use Todoist. So you type that in, it pops up, right? And then eventually, if I have like the core 3 or 4, you can just cycle through them, right? Super easy. Again, blank slate as much as possible. So I mentioned that a big part of this was reducing cognitive load. Like, just stop taking work home with you. Stop like thinking about it all the time. Just get things out. So really the starting point is, I always just have this random like dump note, right? If something comes up, it's just like, all right, well, I got to email this person. Oh, I found this quote. That's awesome. Like, let me write that down so I don't forget it. I got to make John's call notes, stuff I need to get. An example, like just a quick thing that comes up throughout the day is like, okay, I got to send John the intentional technology link. And now it's out of my head. Now I don't have to like worry about it. And we'll get to what we do with that towards the end of the thing.
On that little thing there, I've kind of experimented with this. So you don't use like a to-doist for these things that just come up. So this is more just like a very quick like scribble down.
Yeah, this is anything because like, some of the times just an idea for an article or a quote will come up. Like that doesn't belong in Todoist,
Mhm.
right? That's not a to-do task. But if I had to just, force myself to remember it, again, all these circles keep spinning. The rainbow wheel in your head is like, oh, I have to hold on to this. And again, it pulls you out of kind of focus and intention. So this is
Mhm.
literally just a dumping ground for stuff. That just happens throughout the day. Whenever shit comes up, like get it out of your head. Doesn't matter what, notepad, I don't Evernote, Notion, like I don't care. Just get it out of your head. So this is what, and again, another example of this is like single task stuff. Use full screen on all your apps. Like stop dual wielding stuff, stop jumping around things. So this is the core structure here. And we'll dig into all of this. This is again the day that repeats every single day. So all of these things are set to just repeat daily. Again, watch the first video here. This stuff is not meant to be a dictator, but if your day is going well, it's great to have structure like this. And I'll talk about a few of the kind of techniques and stuff that go into this. So again, I mentioned 2 hours of the beginning of the day are just me, right? And this is again state priming. Like, okay, I want to be able to get a lot done. What do I need to do? I need to be calm, alert, clear, right? So yoga, meditate, daily stuff. That's breakfast, read, look at Twitter, like doesn't much matter. Just free block right there. So deep work, honestly, just read the book Deep Work by Cal Newport. Like if you don't make a specific time to get really, really high priority stuff done, your day will fill up with garbage. Emails, 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 meeting, people responding to the emails you already sent out. And then by the end of the day, you haven't done the single one thing that you needed to do. This is also the Mark Twain quote of eating the frog, right? If you have to eat a frog today, do it at the beginning of the day. And if you have to eat two, eat the biggest one first. This is also riding with your energy. Like your energy levels are highest when you wake up, and then they kind of just deplete throughout the day until you have to go to sleep. So, really demanding high leverage stuff. First thing, just a huge 2 hour block. The reason it's a 2 hour block is this is the Pomodoro technique at work. And we'll go into this with the Todoist structure as well. Like a full Pomodoro cycle, right? 4 half-hour rounds on just one thing. So that's the deep work block. Then there's a half-hour break built into Pomodoro. This is just whatever. Maybe a call's come up. Maybe I just read. Maybe I just sit and do nothing. Maybe I continue working. It's just open. Then there's just core tasks for HighExistence. This could be anything. This could be finish editing the podcast. This could be film a video, draft the article, schedule social media. And I'll show you where all of those actual tasks lives in a second. But this is just, again, core stuff, not as time demanding or energy demanding as the big work, but it's still pretty heavy. So we got that. Same thing, break after. Because again, if you just output all the time, if you just sprint, you'll never recover and you'll burn out and you'll collapse. This is a very long game, right? This is what we brought up in the first call. This is the very long game. This is what can you sustain over a long period of time. Sprint is just any other stuff that comes up. This is emails, this is customer support, This is ordering that thing from Amazon. This is the really small stuff. And these all get like a 1 Pomodoro 25-minute focused block. Dinner and done. So the done part is what I spoke about with the notes list. This is going back to whatever came up here and actually being like, oh, okay, this is a task. I need to write this down and get it on the calendar. Oh, I need to do these things, right? Oh, right, I got to send John that link. So these would translate over to Todoist, and I'll get to Todoist in one sec. But so that, again, having the daily review, super important, because a part of this structure was called 135, right? So you have your one most important thing that you give the most time and attention to, single thing. Then you have three, like 2 or 3 like important stuff that you make space for here. And then you have the 5 just like small stuff, the 5 whatevers. And that 135, you can get an unbelievable amount done with that, particularly if you can maintain it. Then again,
Just real quick. What time are you typically waking up? Like, I'm just curious. Like, do you wake up and do yoga immediately? Like, how does that work typically?
yeah, literally. So yeah, like I have everything I need in my room. So I have a yoga mat right beside my bed. You literally fall out of bed onto the mat, open my phone, and just do it. Because again, movement is a great way to just wake up really quickly. And yoga is just an amazing practice. So it came before meditation. Yoga was also designed to help you meditate better. So you can stack those 2 things one after the other. Really good. Really good way to get going. Again, I am not a perfect being. I have days that look absolutely nothing like this, right? Days of just fooling around. But on the days when I am on fire, to be able to show up to this and not have to think about anything, that is the magic. Because then all it is a matter of, okay, well, how can I be on fire a lot of the time so that I can hit this consistently?
And you know the dinner and done, is that the like demarcation line of like your work day is over? Is that like do you think we need one of those, like I'm not working anymore now, that's the line drawn?
It's extremely helpful. I think as a general practice, yes. There are times later in the day, in the first call, I said that there were a few months where like 10 to 12 p.m. was just peak for me. Like, so sometimes that deep work block, and this is why I said it was modular. You could drag them around. Like sometimes the deep work block would come at 10 p.m. This is what I've set up to try to work for right now. Because again, in the first call, we were like, commit to something, experiment with it and commit to it. So this is what the commitment looks like right now.
Okay.
Like growth is a super ambiguous term, kind of for a reason, because there's a bunch that can fall into place there. Sometimes it's the gym, sometimes it's reading a book, sometimes it's hanging out with friends, sometimes it's group calls, and sometimes it's writing, right? Sometimes it's going back to work just because. And of course, sometimes it's just watching Netflix, right? Like it's just what am I feeling right now? But it's nice to have these prompts throughout the day where it's like, oh, okay, yeah, I've made the time where I can go to the gym. I don't have to think about that anymore, right? Like I know that if I follow this, all of these things get done. Because again, we spoke earlier about the kind of holistic step. Like if every day for me is going to be the same, you have to do the health part, you have to do the work part, you have to do the relationship part. It all needs to find a place here. And so there's a time towards the end that finds its way there. The end stuff is, yeah, turn off your screen, right? Wind down so that you can actually fall asleep and you're not getting poor quality sleep. So that's the structure. None of that is the content, right? The content is when we come over to Todoist. And so it looks something like this. So right So I have the dump stuff. If any of it's a task, well, Todoist has an inbox. It just finds its way there, and then it gets sorted out into the projects on the side. Todoist has 4 priority levels, right? Urgent, medium, smaller, none. And you'll notice, this is the best part, the colors map, right? So if this is right, and this is the 1, 3, 5, right? You can see the one most important thing, the 3 like important stuff, and then the basic stuff. And so what's nice is like anything that doesn't get done, so these are in today, you can just reschedule and toss them into today. So basically, when I wake up, I hide this, and like this is all I'm doing today. I don't need to look at anything else. It's just right there in front of me. And all my job is to do in these blocks, these work blocks, is to go through these things. Here's an example. So like the super deep work might be like create the integration course outline. And there might be like research in that, might be a lot of just deep uninterrupted work. Mm-hmm. Cool. So I have 2 hours uninterrupted in my day to do that. Then we'll get like, I don't know, draft article. Awesome. Right. You know, maybe you have some core meetings that are super important, so you can do that. But it can also be, you know, sales page design. These are things that are like, all right, if I give an hour of uninterrupted work, I'm gonna do what I need to do with this.
So this is the 1, 3, 5 method, right?
Yeah.
So are the like, so why are there 2 blue and 1 amber?
They're all the same technically. It just, you know, if I had to choose which one to do first, because it's not guaranteed, right? I have like a 2-hour block to do this stuff. Maybe I can't get all of them. If I'm going to get one done, this is definitely the higher priority there.
And do you create these from scratch, like on a daily basis? Like, you know, like, okay, or are they repeating to-dos that you then just change the text, or like, what's the process for that?
So 2 things. One is you get into a rhythm and you kind of know how you work. The second is, because this is a question that comes up. It's like, okay, the priority levels are cool, but how do I figure out what's a priority in my life? This is where you build in, this is where you pick and choose the frameworks that work for you. So I would recommend, and I guess we'll put a link to an example of this. This is the Eisenhower matrix. The Eisenhower matrix is a thing that helps people determine priority levels. Awesome. Right. So urgent, not urgent, important, not important. If it's urgent and important, do it now. So urgent and important are the most important tasks. They're the one thing that like, that is the only thing I'm focused on doing. That's why you don't jump around this list. It's a top to bottom thing. It's if this thing takes the entire day, cool. Like whatever.
Mm-hmm. And why Todoist over other productivity apps? Just, have you tried many and you just found this to be the best? Does it offer something that others don't?
No, it's kind of just something that ended up fitting with this, right? I love the priority colors. You know, I can actually just schedule stuff and be like, hey, it's not happening today. Bring this back up tomorrow. Because this is another thing. So, you know, let's say Sunday, right? Sometimes like the core work on Sunday will just be like planning out the next week. Mm-hmm. Right? It doesn't have to be like a specific task. And so when things are really rolling, right, I have like a backlog of items here. What you can do is you can go into each one and give it a date, right? So I can do like Tuesday the 7th. And then you could actually have a whole week where without any input from you, the today view populates itself because you've scheduled a whole bunch of things to appear on Tuesday, a whole bunch to appear on Wednesday, Thursday, and Friday. They sort automatically by priority. And so you can literally just wake up, open the today view, and just go. And this is what I meant about not having to think about anything. Because
Gotcha.
with this, so like you can imagine what a day would be like waking up. You wake up, you know what the day is going to look like. So you don't have to think about where you're going, what you're doing, who you're talking to. And then when the work blocks come up, they just literally appear right in front of you. No thought required. And because some of these tasks will end up being like plan the next day, plan the week, like the actual system maintains itself. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah, and honestly, like that's basically it. And so, so then let's say I did this, I come to draft article. Okay, cool. So I have an hour because it's one of the medium tasks. Like, cool, I have an hour to do that. I open my writing app. I've got like my list of posts I want to write. And again, you come to the full screen, like uninterrupted focus. And it's just like, all right, cool. I'm going to write this article for the next hour, knowing that I'll still have time in the rest of my day to do all of the other stuff.
So so this is to me the core system for navigating to-dos. Okay. So if anyone wants a to-do list system, we've just gave it to you. Eric has just laid it out to you. It's a combination of using the calendar with the to-do list in the 1-3-5 method. What about storage? Right. So say like where do you store the movies, the films, the articles, the YouTube videos, all that stuff? How do you store that? Know where to find it?
Just labeled folders. So, we started this with one of the foundations, like clean up your stuff. Right. So an example, I have a HighExistence folder. I have podcast, movies, articles, other, right? And stuff just gets slotted in there.
Okay. Was there any way you can show us like an example of something organized? Is there like
yeah, sure. Yeah.
anything?
Yeah. So as a kind of just side fun project, I've been trying to do just like some of these videos where you get like a great thinker and you know how they have the text that appears along the bottom. So I've been trying to do some of those. So let's say that was one of them, like finish the Alan Watts video, right? So this is what I'm working on. Cool. All right. So I need to get it. So again, this is all that lives in my documents because I took those time like weeks and months ago to actually clean up this whole thing. So I have the core HighExistence one, right? I have just random side projects that have lived or died. I have like learning stuff, like ebooks and PDFs and whatever you find. So yeah, cool. HighExistence, right? Short videos. There's a whole folder for it. I have one of the Alan Watts. I have the files folder, right? Because I need to put the audio together with the video. And so boom, like they're right there. You open them up in iMovie or Premiere Pro, like whatever, and I just get on with it. And then, export the file to the same folder here and it all lives.
Okay, that's helpful. Do you have a particular process for staying on top of email? I know that emails are like a huge kind of burden for many of us.
Yeah, this is a great question. There's nothing visual to this. This is more just theoretical. So the first is delete everything, right? We declare inbox bankruptcy, get rid of all of it. And then unsubscribe from literally everything. So because your inbox will be empty, you'll get to see everything that comes in. Honestly, if it's any promotional thing ever, unsubscribe from it. It's just useless. Like, just get rid of it. So then you reduce the amount that come in, right? And so then when it's actually just core stuff that comes in, like maybe you'll have, I don't know, 4 or 5, 20 emails that come in. The biggest thing, and this is something you can train in other people, is like, unless there is a direct ask of me, I'm not going to reply to you. I will see it because, I can literally, one of the basic tasks that I always have, the 5 small ones, is always just process emails. Because I have like 4 emails for HighExistence I have to watch, right?
Mm-hmm.
So it's just, I will see them. And you can tell your team and your people and your friends and your family, you can tell them this. If you email me, I will see it. Unless you ask something or I feel compelled to reply, I'm just going to get rid of it. Like,
Gotcha.
you can straight up tell people that. It's not a bad thing. It's actually, and if you're in a corporate environment and someone pushes back, it's like, look, are you paying me to answer my emails or do like really good work here? Because they don't go together. It might help coordination, mm-hmm. but that's why it comes as one of those basic ones. It's like, cool, you gave me some information to update. I'll go back and work on it. Great. But like, deep work and email do not really go together. So yeah, get rid of all of it. Don't let any come in. Do not respond to all of it. Like, you just don't need to. Once you have, just get rid of it. Archive it. Get it out. There's some very few meet this threshold, but if it's like, oh, I don't want to reply to you right now because it needs a more detailed response. First thing, like, I'll just save it in a folder. I have a little folder in my email called the Vault, and that's just stuff I want to save. But then, we spoke about the notepad dumping ground. Immediately it'll be like, oh, okay, cool, I actually have to follow up on that email. And then in the daily review, it finds its way into the to-doist and it lives on the calendar. So then tomorrow or Thursday or whenever it comes up again, it'll be like, go back and respond to that email now. Easy.
I love that. I'm hearing from the system that, the absolute foundation of this, if you want it to work, is to clean up your space and organize it. Like, that's the starting point. It's not even difficult. Like you said, you put on a podcast, a couple of hours, sort out your files, sort out what you're subscribed to, sort out your overwhelming inbox. Like, it needs to be organized. Otherwise, it's just going to be like trying to find something in a house where you've hoarded for like 2 decades. It's like, it's not going to work. What about, were you going to say something?
Well, it's almost why they designed computer interfaces to mirror reality, like folders and the trash bin and stuff, because your digital, particularly in your mind, like, your mind works the same way. If you have shit everywhere, it's super cluttered. And this is why people get brain fog and they don't know what's a priority and they don't know where things are. It's because it's a mess in there. The digital will translate as well, right? All these open loops, like, even if you don't remember, they take up bandwidth in you. Like, holy crap, I have those 15 emails and I have to do this, but I can't remember what they asked of me. Like, all those things just circle around. And that's why, honestly, probably the biggest benefit of this, and it's, remember, we spoke in the first video about, like, this was birthed in many ways out of necessity. My mind was already really cluttered. I was getting really anxious. And so it was like, look, I'm not letting all of this crap add even more. So yeah, a lot of it is just reduce the input so that you can output way more. That's kind of the essence of this whole productivity space, right? Increasing output. Well, a large part of that will be just stop being bogged down by stuff grabbing you all the time. Make these things work for you instead of you having to like work against them. They become this other obstacle. Like, how many times do people talk about email like that? Like, it's an obstacle in their way. It doesn't have to be. It takes a little bit of work to make it the other way, but it can actually be useful.
Do you time yourself, like, or do you just use the calendar notifications to tell you when, like, a certain block is over, or like, how does that work?
Most of them won't take the full time, particularly as you get better than this. Like, you'll you'll surprise yourself how much you can actually get done when it's uninterrupted, focused work. Like stuff that would take you a week. Like this is why the deep work stuff is so useful. And this is another huge benefit. Is like you can actually get weeks and months of work done in like a week.
Mm-hmm.
Because, let's say you have a end of quarter report that you have to make. How many people have gone through the scenario of like they've never put it on the calendar, so then they get bogged down by emails, and then it's like Friday at the end of the week and it's like, wow, I still didn't finish that. The one thing I had to do this entire week, I didn't, because I got bogged down with emails and garbage.
Mm-hmm.
But I made 2 hours, not an overwhelming amount of time in a 40-hour work week to get at least the bulk of it done, and then I could add it to the next day if it still didn't get done. Like, so what? I'm looking at 4-6 hours maybe out of a 40-hour week, and I did the most important thing. I did more work, more useful work in 2 to 3 days than I've done in 5. And whoa, so okay, you just doubled, because now you have the capacity to do that again.
Mm-hmm.
And what if you get to the point where that's the daily structure? That's why the 1-3-5 thing is amazing. Because if you had a report, article drafts, like a sales page design thing, those 3 things take most people like 3 weeks. And
Mm-hmm.
like if you actually dialed in the system, like we're talking like a day or two.
I
And
love it.
if that happens over time, like that's why some of this stuff is not a joke, right? We're talking like months of work, useful work, not busy work, not garbage work, like useful work done in days. And that, when, at the beginning it was, well, can you be productive to build the life that you want? Like imagine if you could move this quickly towards that thing that you actually want to do more than anything else. Like that's amazing.
You mentioned the Pomodoro technique. Could you give a demonstration or like an explanation on how we can use this?
Sure. Yeah, so I don't even really we don't need anything visual for this. Pomodoro technique is it was called that because they use the tomato kitchen timers that are
Mm-hmm.
set for like half an hour. The idea being working in uninterrupted blocks of time. So you take one task, you set the timer. Sometimes they actually recommend like buying an egg timer and actually like using it, that you don't have to go that extreme. But so the idea being you have one Pomodoro block, which is 25 minutes with a 5-minute break of uninterrupted work. They have a cycle where you do 4 of those and then you take a half-hour break. And so you don't have to do like, this is again a thing that's useful for testing, because sometimes if you're in like super deep flow state and you're writing something, you actually don't want to take that 5-minute break. You want to just go through the whole hour and then take a 10-minute break after that. The idea just being making time for uninterrupted focused work. And so actually I will share really quick so that people can see this again. So you can see how that framework was built into this, where everything is in some variant of half an hour,
Mm-hmm.
right? Everything is a multiple of a half-hour block, which is whatever, that's normal. But most of the core things are that 2-hour cycle, right? So the deep work thing. So I take my one super important task and I do a full Pomodoro cycle on it, right? So 4 chunks of half an hour, like deep work with a little breaks, right? Get up, get a coffee, right? Go wash your hands, like literally whatever. But you've done 2 full hours of uninterrupted work. And this is what I meant. Like most people have no idea how much output they can get with that amount of time, because
Mm-hmm.
it's unbelievable. And then again, same thing with the 3 medium tasks. They get that core 2-hour window, and then the 5 small things. And sometimes the 5 small things can get done in half an hour themselves, right? Sometimes it's like buy shoes online, call mom. Like sometimes they're super quick, but again, it's not that demanding. And the cool thing about this is you'll notice that this whole thing, which if done effectively, A, gives you breaks so that you're not overwhelmed and you can like eat and move around. So it's sustainable, but it also fits in an 8-hour window.
Yeah.
Like this is an unprecedented amount of work that it still actually fits right in the 9 to 5 structure, right? I could just slide all of these up an hour and it would fit 9 to 5. And that is a ridiculous amount of output. And it fits the same structure that many are already using.
Mm-hmm. So one of the problems I had when I used to do Pomodoro, I'm going to give it another test, was that I would be able to do the really focused work for 25 minutes, like really good. I'd get a lot done. And then when the 5 minute break came, I wouldn't be like super strict with the break. So it wouldn't be
Mm-hmm.
like tick tock, tick tock. Okay, back to work. It's that
Mm-hmm.
5 minute might turn into like 10 or 15 minutes.
Sure.
Then obviously it's the kind of like stretching the workday out longer than it needs to be. And then you end up doing, yeah, sure, 4 25 minute blocks of work that are productive, but then it's like 4 hours have gone by, or like more time than you wanted to. Do you have anything like tips on that?
Yeah. If you do actually just want to do the half-hour ones, stay in your chair,
Mm-hmm.
just meditate or do breath work or something, or stand up and like do air squats. Don't actually go away, because that again, I'm right with you. Doing the actual half-hour ones, I almost never came back immediately. And then I was like, oh, why can't I do this? And you get negative and you drop the whole thing entirely. I actually rarely do half-hour ones. Like honestly, it's more for me. It's more just like an hour, just an hour, just like locked in. And again, I don't even track it. It's just like, okay, I have the next 2 hours that I'm going to do these things in, and it's going to be, my phone's in the drawer. Again, I'm not getting any notifications because I shut them all off, right? And so it's just like, cool, I'm just going to lock in and do this. And then you build momentum because you've already started doing it, right? And it gets done. Because again,
So I do you follow the Pomodoro technique? Do you actually like time yourself then? Or are you saying you do like an hour, then have a 5 minute break, kind of like intuitively? Like what's
well, you can just add the Pomodoro sprint with the break time. So it's like the base one is 25 work minutes, 5 minute break.
Mhm.
What if you just doubled both of them? Work for 50 minutes, take a 10-minute break. That's what I
Mhm.
mean. And so
Okay.
a lot of my things would look like that, the 50-10 instead of the 25-5. Like again, if I'm writing an article, I always lock out an hour for that, but it almost never takes me an hour. And so then
Mhm.
I just whatever, take a break after. For some of the big ones, like if I'm just going, I can just do the whole 2 hours, and then because there's nothing after those things on the schedule, dude, I can just do nothing for a whole hour. Like I can just hang out, get food, read a book, look at my phone. Like I don't care. And that is also nice because like it doesn't feel overly restrictive, because the way that's been set up, it's like I've got 2 hours in my day that aren't even scheduled. I can
Mhm.
do literally whatever. If I want to sit on Twitter that whole time, I will. And I do. Like trust me, I do. Because it's like, well, cool. I know that there's still time in the rest of my day where all that other stuff is going to get done. And so it
Mhm.
it takes off that kind of dictator pressure that the schedule can bring. It's just like, cool, yeah, 2 hours, whole hour break after that. Like that's a great back and forth. So yeah, I basically just multiply the breaks. I don't really do the half-hour ones. But for some of the smaller tasks, like, you know, literally I have on my to-do list like buy running shoes, right? Like that is going to take, it's going to get half an hour if it needs to, but that's going to take 5 minutes, right? So like whatever.
With the like with this conversation, it's going to be a case of me downloading the video content, getting it from you, like a lot of different files, maybe getting some music, I don't know, but there's going to be like a lot of different files, then images, then some text that I'm going to write, a lot of different pieces. And what I typically do is I just kind of, they all go in my downloads folder, and I just kind of like extract and just pick and choose. Do you have like like a folder where you just dump everything and then in the daily review you'll neaten it out? Or do you actually keep things organized as you go? So it's like new file, you put it in the right place, moving so you don't have to go back to it later. Like, how do you
No,
keep things in check?
desktop and downloads. So if it's something I'm creating, I just save it to desktop always. And if it's something I'm getting from the internet, it lives in downloads until the end of the day, right? And then you just go through and it's like, oh, okay, this was this, pop it in there, drag the downloads to wherever they need to go.
So at the end of the day, you always go back to those places and make sure they're like empty.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so that's very important. So you don't want to be starting a work day or going to bed unless your desktop and downloads are clean, like fresh.
Well, yeah, and again, this is one of the things where when we speak about it like this and we just put it on the table, it sounds almost ridiculous. Like it sounds super like OCD, like focused. But honestly, it's like going to the gym, right? Once it's done for 2 weeks, it becomes normal, and it's just a habitual like. And again, everyone who's listening to this is definitely digitally savvy. Like it'll take you 12 seconds. Like you're moving a file to a folder. Like it literally will take you 10 seconds. But that payoff is huge. Right? It's way more than it saves you way more than 12 seconds in the long run. Super low hanging fruit. Yeah.
Okay. I think that covers everything for now. But I will, just to finish things off, could you give us a rundown of your 3 to 5 favorite apps that you use the most?
Safari, internet browser. Like that's the only one that actually stays in my dock. Period. Ulysses for writing.
I use that too.
Yeah, I got it from you actually. All
Mm.
my drafts stay in that. Todoist. Damn, that resolves like 95% of the work that I do because almost all of my work is on the internet. Right, it's all in Safari. Dude, yeah, Descript. I just downloaded Descript, like a podcast editing tool. Fantastic. Really enjoy it. Let me see my phone. I might have something else.
Also, obviously, Google Calendar, you find
Google Calendar,
important.
shout out. Yeah. And again, I mentioned this at the beginning, like everything here is free. Everything I just showed is all free plan. None of it's paid. Like it's super accessible. Shout out to the chess.com app. I am trying to actually learn chess. That wasn't a joke, so I'm using that a lot. You
Such a good
introduced
app.
me to Brainscape, the flashcard learning app. Amazing. Unbelievable.
So good.
Yeah, I have Oak. It's an iOS meditation app. Amazing. Love it. Super basic. Got an Eastern flair to it. Beautiful. And then books. Yeah.
Books. Yeah.
Like literally the Apple Books app. Yeah. And Spotify. So yeah. And again, I've got the same thing. Maybe I can show it on my thing. But this is all derived from that intentional technology article. But like no real work, this is actually worth mentioning. No real work gets done on your phone. Let's make that clear. Like don't even joke yourself.
Like that.
Like, don't kid yourself. Nothing useful or deep gets done on your phone. So like again, my home screen is just blank. Nothing except for the bottom, music, books, and meditation. Right? Because there's just this it compels you. It's like there's nothing here except these things. Oh, I want to do those things. And those can be whatever you want. And then like you just have to swipe to actually get the rest of the apps. But they're all just what'd you call them? Monitoring. So it's like, okay, yeah, cool. I can see I have some emails. Oh, I can check social. Like, yeah, play chess, but there's so many people who have the full like Google suite on their phone. Like they're going to be editing docs and writing stuff there. And that's a bad frame because really you're not. What you're going to do is you're going to go on Instagram and then you're going to go to Twitter and then you're going to go to Facebook and then you're going to feel bad that you didn't do the thing. So honestly, just don't even try to do work on your phone.
Yeah, like isn't it crazy how popular the Kindles are? And it's not, you can't say it's like screens are so good on phones now, you can't say it's because of the e-ink display. It's because people like are obviously just not reading on their iPhones because it's
Yep.
too distracting. It's nice to have this like thing that you can't even browse properly on it, you know.
Mm-hmm.
It's which is good. It's a feature. All right. So, okay. So we've just covered some, I mean, what I'm going to do for this as I think that I'm going to create like a full article to go along with this, the
Cool.
2 parts that we've created. And then I'll link to that article in the description. So if you follow that through, you can go to HighExistence and we'll put like links to literally everything that we've mentioned in there. So it's going to be like basically like a free, super detailed document. This has been awesome. I'm really looking forward to trying some of this stuff. So I have no doubt that if you've made it to the end of this video, if you actually apply even
Shout
50%
out.
of this, you're gonna see some serious results.
Mm-hmm. And again, like this is 8 years in the making. Right, like no joke. Like this is like, oh, okay, I'm learning about the Pomodoro. Try and fail for 3 years to set that up, and then Eisenhower matrix, and then deep work, and so it comes together slowly. And this is why it's great to learn from stuff, because you can learn from decades of work from other people and just get going with that. So yeah, like test it out. And again, don't go 0 to 100. Like maybe just try using that dumping notepad and start with that. Just get things out of your head. And then maybe you build in like a schedule. It doesn't even matter if you hit it, but just having it in your calendar. And then maybe you build in the to do thing. And then you map them over to each other. It just comes slowly.
So for me, the starting point that I'm going to be taking from this, and this might give an example to those who are watching, is like, what are like the urgent tasks for me? Okay, it's
Yep.
like, don't be worrying about like the 1-3-5 method and getting that perfect if your desktop and your computer is a complete mess.
Seriously.
So emails, folders, getting all of that cleaned up, my downloads folder, getting all of that cleaned up. I'm excited to do that. So as you said, check on a podcast, like a Joe
Yep.
Rogan episode, it's like 3 hours long. Check on a podcast, sort all of that out. Then I will get on a calendar and make a schedule loop based on yours. Maybe it'll have some tweaks, but I'm going to use yours as a template.
Well, and again, this goes back to our first question of like, what do you actually want your life to look like?
Mm-hmm.
Like, what do you actually want it to look like? And then build it based on that. Like, how do you actually want to spend your time? If you could
Yeah.
do anything, what do you want your day to look like? And that is how that structure can come. Because if you answer that, it could look way different, way
Yeah.
different. And that's okay. That's honoring yourself and what you want and who you are. It's a good
Mm-hmm.
thing.
Yeah, I think what might be like a cool exercise though is that for me, it's not going to work making every day look exactly the same. That's not going to work. But what I'm
Mm-hmm.
going to do is I have 4 to 5 days in the week where I can have a day that is like hyper productive. So on those days, I'm going to try
Mm-hmm.
following your daily routine, and maybe I'll tweak the yoga for something else, but it's going to follow that kind of pattern. And then on the days that I'm more tied up with stuff, I can figure something else out so I can be flexible with that.
Yep.
Awesome. So I know you're working on a YouTube channel as well. So that's in the making,
Mm-hmm.
and I'm going to link to it. So check out Eric's YouTube channel in the description. That's going to be high up in the list. Thank you so much. I've learned a lot from this. It's been better than I could have anticipated. It's been super cool.
Yeah, that was a serious gauntlet. Yeah, thank you. And again, we actually went over a lot of the fundamentals of this in that hard work podcast. So if you want a
Yeah.
little more conversational way to approach this, like a lot of it is still right there.
Yeah. So we'll find the Hard Work podcast. We're going to make a fleshed out document
Yeah.
for free on HighExistence with this entire system and all of the relevant podcasts, book recommendations, apps, etc.
I'm literally putting that in the dump note. You see that? That's how this stuff works. It's like, okay, yeah, outline, PDF document for the call.
Yeah, because one of the things we want to do with High Existence is we don't want to have like 100 articles on productivity, right? We want to have the article on productivity.
Yeah.
And that's what we're going to make from this as the base. So
Awesome.
super excited. And yeah, I'll speak to you soon. Thank you.
Thank you.